Psycho-Pass, an anime directed by Katsuyuki Motohiro, takes place in the near future where it's become possible to instantaneously measure and quantify a person's mental state, personality, and even how likely he or she is to commit a crime. This information is recorded and analyzed via the Sibyl system, which decides who is a criminal and who is not, based on his or her crime coefficient. When that number rises above the norm, you are pursued, apprehended, and even killed. The police work in teams, comprised of enforcers and inspectors. Enforcers go after the criminals, while the inspectors make sure their partners stay in line. Their weapon is a special gun called a Dominator. Simply put it at your target, and if his or her crime coefficient is too high, the gun will shoot to paralyze or even kill on the spot. In this world, even thinking about a crime can make you guilty. There are no trials, and there is no hesitation to shoot. In such an environment, pre-punishment is made easy. All you have to do is point your Dominator, and if it says shoot, you shoot. The system is a judge, and people no longer have to decide who is guilty and who isn't. But such a system is not perfect. No one has to decide what's good or bad. Thinking is no longer required. Human morals are replaced with an automated system that only judges based on a single number. In Chapter 4 from the book The Theory of Moral Sentiments by Adam Smith, he states that our continual observations upon the conduct of others insensibly lead us to form to ourselves certain general rules concerning what is fit and proper either to be done or to be avoided. He claims that when you see something that shocks us, and that everyone around us expresses detestation for, we resolve to never to be guilty of the like, nor ever, upon any account, to render ourselves in this manner the objects of universal disapprobation. He says that we naturally lay down for ourselves a general rule to avoid at all costs such actions as these. Similarly, when we see something that calls forth our approbation, and which everybody expresses favor for, we gain the desire to live up to that expectation, and also be the object of admiration. Smith states, it is thus that the general rules of morality are formed. They are ultimately founded upon experience of what, in particular instances, our moral faculties, our natural sense of merit and propriety, approve or disapprove of. However, in Psycho-Pass, people are condemned not for their wrongdoings or for their actions, but instead for one variable, their crime coefficient. The police begin to forget whether their actions are right or not, and instead blindly follow the voice of the Dominator. They forget that what they fight and often kill are still human beings whose complex nature can never be fully evaluated by a single number. The morality, the distinction between mankind and animals, is blurred, and sometimes lost altogether under the ease of self-deception that the Sibyl system brings. In the first episode, the enforcers are introduced. Enforcers are latent criminals or people with a high crime coefficient, but instead of being removed from society, they have agreed to work with the inspectors to catch other latent criminals. Main character Akane Tsunemori, the new inspector, is immediately told not to think of the enforcers as people like themselves. The enforcers are commonly referred to as hunting dogs, and when they first enter the scene, they are shrouded in darkness, as if their human character is covered up by the system, which demands that they be transported via a paddy wagon, as if in a cage, blocking them off from the rest of the world. A few minutes later, in the scene where Akane picks up her Dominator, her eyes are overlaid with what the gun shows her. So it's as if her eyes are covered in the lens of the system, which distorts what a human would normally call to be good or bad. As we continue in the episode with the chase and apprehension of a latent criminal on the loose, the camera shows a close-up of the lips of the criminal. He has no face. His speech is the only human part that's left of him, and even that doesn't stop the Dominator from rendering him a threat to society, and as a result, blowing him to bits. The victim of the original crime, after being beaten and raped, is also shown a close-up of her dry lips once her crime coefficient rises above the norm, as if she had also lost her human face. Here, one of the enforcers is shown with his gun pointing down at her. The gun is on the front line doing the dirty work of judging and apprehending, and allows the enforcer to ignore the morality, or lack thereof, of the action that lies beyond it. Akane, however, rejects the Dominator's words that the victim is now a threat, and physically grabs the enforcer to stop him from shooting. She doesn't reach for the gun. She doesn't try to stop the system. Instead, she tries to stop the person blindly following it, screaming to him about how it's not right to shoot someone they've done nothing wrong. As the new latent criminal runs away, she trips and falls, knocking over canisters of gasoline. In the puddle of liquid, she clenches a lighter and screams with her face inhumanly distorted. We then see an image of another reinforcer looking down at her as he stands on his own 2 feet while the woman lies on the ground. It's as if she can no longer rise to the standards of a righteous human being, but instead is at the level of an expendable object. But again, when Akane, who recognizes the difficult situation the woman came from, tries to comfort her, the woman pauses, drops the lighter she was waving around, and her crime coefficient drops. Through this act of kindness by Akane, the woman begins to regain her senses, and her face appears less distorted than it had before. By looking beyond the vision of the dominator, Akane is able to see the humanity in the victim and bring her back to being less of a threat to society. She saw the injustice in the pursuit of the woman under the given circumstances, and as a result, saved her from being killed. In this first episode of Psycho-Pass, fellow human beings are viewed as animals or objects in the lens of the civil system. The dominator tells you that you are doing justice, but in reality, you may be destroying it instead. When you yourself do not see and judge whether a person's actions are good or bad, you lose the kindness, reasoning, and morality that separates humans from beasts. Pre-punishment, then, is faulty not for moral reasons, nor even for any true logical reason. It's merely the preservation of human nature and human dignity that Psycho-Pass deems this form of pre-punishment as less than optimal. It tells us to not allow yourself to be deceived, but rather, listen to your own moral faculties, lest the morality of humankind, the distinction between man and animal, be lost forever.